YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back with some Total War of Warhammer online battles, and I think I have a couple of slightly different ones for you. This one is going to be me playing as the Dwarfs, and as the name I'm sporting suggests, we're going to be making heavy use of miners, which have a vanguard deployment. Now, in and of themselves, they are pretty crappy infantry. But since they can start out all over the place, you can try to throw your opponent into a little bit of confusion. So I have deployed miners out all over the map, and I've kept my quarrelers back here with some gyrocopters. I have 3 cannons, and then my opponent has 2 demigryph knights here, 3 handgunners, and he's got a line of great swords, Balthasar Gelt, and he's got some great cannon. So he does outrange me. Odd pick for the Empire to bring something like this against the Dwarves. I guess maybe he just brought all the great swords thinking this was going to be an infantry slugfest, and probably bringing the handguns because he's not worried about my cavalry running them down because the Dwarves don't have cavalry. So he's going to start out this this battle just kind of scouting around with Balthasar Gelt here, and that's probably a good idea. And I'm going to fast forward for a few minutes. This battle's pretty long for a Warhammer battle. He's going to start firing with his great cannons into my miners with blasting charges. That's fine. They can spend whatever ammo they want over there. I'll eventually move those guys out of their way. He's going to shoot at my gyrocopters. I think he may have scored a single hit there, but he's not going to have an easy time hitting. Against a moving target, the great cannons are going to be relatively inaccurate, and they'll have difficulty aiming in time to stop it. So this pulls his handguns off the front lines, so I'm going to split up my gyrocopters. If you kind of look here from an above view, I've got gyrocopters on each flank, and basically just keeping his handgunners busy where they can't point forward, all the while moving my cannons into a position where I can open fire on Balthasar. And I have enough cannons that I'm likely to get hits on Balthasar fairly often, so it's going to leave me in a good position to put a lot of damage on him. I want to force the humans forward, and it's at this point that I do force them forward. So the demigryph knights are drawn out into combat, and they're going to easily destroy this miner unit that they've caught here. Demigryph knights are going to be shot at by my cannons. I don't have the best angle though, so I don't expect great results from this. If I can get a couple of hits, you all have seen how well cannons work against demigryph knights before, and you can see that my cannons are indeed firing. They're just not having a lot of luck. And I kept my quarrelers hidden the whole time purposefully, so that hopefully his demigryph knights would stray too close and get shot to pieces by my quarrelers as well, so that I basically have multiple ways of dealing massive damage to the demigryph knights while he's maybe distracted with cheap, unimportant units. Now, he did leave his great cannons unguarded here, and because he's been forced to come forward. So my gyrocopters with brimstone guns are killing his great cannons, and so this, again, actually for once gives me a little bit more mobility than the Empire, which is surprising to be sure. You see Balthasar taking some cannon shots there. He's getting pretty well damaged, and I'm going to need to break him in order to have any chance of breaking this Empire army. And the nuisance of the cannons is going to draw the Empire player forward, at least I hope it will. So one of the cannons is gone, and another one's soon to be gone. He's using Balthasar to do some final transmutation here. It does a decent amount of damage to my gyrocopter, to be sure. It's definitely going to hurt it pretty badly. Now here comes his demigryphs. I managed to kind of snag up this one for a second, which is good, and he's going to go straight for my cannons. You can see my quarrelers open fire from the woods here, and they're going to start peppering these demigryphs with a lot of heavy fire. And he is going to get a potential charge on my cannons, just one of them it looks like at the moment. But he's going to pay for this dearly. These demigryph knights are absolutely necessary for him to win this battle. So by kind of throwing them out here prematurely, they're getting attacked by gyrocopters. They have no support. They were getting shot by quarrelers, and they're going to take a large amount of damage. In the process, this unit is down a huge amount of health. And here they're going to run a pointless charge in on my miners, I think attempting to get to the cannons. And at this point, the cannons in my army are not actually the biggest danger to him. But he's so annoyed by the cannons that he focuses on them. The biggest danger to him is actually the quarrelers, because if I kill his demigryph knights, my quarrelers and my brimstone gun gyrocopters are going to have their way with his army, and there will be nothing that he can do about it. So going after the cannons here was actually definitely a grave mistake, big-time tactical error. So this was actually, again, part of the reason why I brought all these different units is so that it would be kind of confusing for the enemy to know where to strike and what to strike in order to be most effective. See these little kitty cat knights here, definitely pounding the crap out of my miners, no doubt. but his guys are going to die. They'll pay the ultimate price for this little raid. And for Demigryph Knights, beating up a couple of cannons, not killing any, and charging a few miners, they're actually not going to be cost effective, which works to my favor. So as Demigryph Knights coming back from routing, they're going to come in for another run on my cannons. Again, just solely focused on my cannons, does not quite realize how deadly the Quarrelers are at this point. Actually, I don't know what he was charging at here, but he just gets stuck on my cannons. And he's going to take massive fire from my Quarrelers, who are going to wipe him out in a big hurry, and then the Brimstone guns finished him off. This Demigryph Knight could potentially come back. It's only broken, and so could this one. I'm going to use my Gyrocopters to go hunt them down. So at this point you can see that the Empire has been forced into action. I still have all 3 of my cannon units in relatively decent health considering what they were attacked by. And I now outrange his handgunners, who would have otherwise been quite dangerous had his Demigryphs been able to seal the deal against my Quarrelers. But because his Demigryphs were focused elsewhere, my Quarrelers are now going to be able to shoot his handgunners from long range, and they also have this position in the woods. The handgunners will get absolutely slaughtered attempting to kill my Quarrelers. They do not have the reload and just the overall aggregate damage to pull this off. So you can see my Quarrelers there from long range picking these guys apart, and they're not able to do much about it. They're going to have to pull back. So I now have the mobility, I have the range. The only thing I don't have is infantry strength. My cannons can continue to fire on Balthasar Gelt. I don't know if my opponent realized what I was doing with my cannons, as Balthasar is kind of just back here thinking that he's safe in the background, but he is under constant fire, and that was a hit right there, even though it didn't jar him around. So he's down to about half his health. And again, all this is being done so that I can try and force my opponent into combat, but I mean, at this point I can be aggressive too because I've taken away his mobility. So I'm going to go on the offense. You can see my miners moving forward, and I've got Ungrim Iron Fist here leading my army. This guy causes a ton of damage, really nice splash damage. Pretty tough Dwarf Lord if you're not having to worry about him getting general sniped, which in this case I do not. Yeah, but here's all my miners there with their giant pickaxes. Pretty cool looking, even though they're a very weak infantry unit. The Dwarf models really are pretty nice. There is a big patch that has come out by the time you'll be watching this. It didn't look like it did a whole lot to really help out the dwarves, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to give everything in the patch a good shot. Look at these great swords. 4 units of Quarrelers just being able to open fire on them. These guys are well armored, but they are not shielded. So they're going to take a significant amount of damage, as they won't have a block chance versus my missiles. At least I don't believe they do. So they are taking some horrendous damage to their health here. You can see that they're down to about half strength. And the rest of the great swords are barreling towards my miner line, which again, the miner line is very, very cheap. These great swords, very, very expensive. Balthasar is taking cannon hits one after another, and he's forced off the battlefield. So Balthasar will not be able to support. Great swords do have good leadership though, and they are going to be a pretty tough unit. I'm going to let his guys engage my great swords, and then I'm hoping that Ungrim Iron Fist can help tank out a great sword unit. I would think he could. So I'm going to obviously take that chance. So there's my miners basically just taking that one braced. They would lose badly one way or another. You can see my gyrocopters whirring into position from behind. So I'm going to be putting some heavy fire right into the back of these great swords. And then Ungrim Iron Fist is going to come join the fight here too. So you can see he's going to have the weapon strength and the splash damage to chuck around quite a few great swords. So definitely going to be a key unit here, as he's the only infantry unit I have that can dish out any damage and take any damage in return. For the most part, my miners are getting beat up pretty badly, obviously, by great swords, but they are doing a pretty cost-effective trade here. They are good versus armor, so although they're low attack, they do have good armor piercing, and they are definitely a good unit to trade against the great swords, because the great swords will take a lot of damage for killing only a cheap unit here. So my opponent bringing great swords was very much to my benefit. And you can see that my Quarrelers dealing with a great sword back here, not currently able to deal with his handgunners, but I'm just keeping my gyrocopters out of their range. And it's basically making his handgunners not able to participate in the fight because they're constantly chasing. And then his great swords over here are chasing Quarrelers, while his main infantry line is pretty much being defeated. Balthasar leaves the field altogether, and I've got these miners back here that killed one cannon, and then I forgot about the other one. Gyrocopters coming back in. So yeah, again, you can see these great swords just not really having the best time trading against the miners. It's not like miners are better in a one-on-one engagement by any means. They're just they're just a good trade because they're so cheap and they get some armor-piercing damage. And my cannon's trying to pull through this fight, interestingly enough. Don't really know exactly how that happened. I'm trying to see where Ungrim's at here. Looks like the great swords. Let's get back over here. Where is Ungrim? I don't know where Ungrim's at, but my Quarrelers are now able to shoot at his handgunners, so they're gonna die. Where are you at, Mr. Ungrim? The Iron Fist. Here he is. Let's check out Iron Fist. Get some close-ups on him here. There he is, hammering away at these great swords. You can see him just batting them away as he swings. Looks like these great swords are gonna be broken, but that's not gonna stop Ungrim from mercilessly killing them while they rout. That is pretty sweet. I'm definitely looking forward to the blood mod here. You're gonna see some of this recorded before the blood mod was out. So if you're watching this and you're not seeing the blood, it's because I had to record it or else it was going to corrupt the replay. Hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now, and I will see you all soon.